back and see what we discussed.
Yeah, that's true.
So do you want to get this part out?
Oh.
Maybe. Depends how funny it is.
Okay, alright.
We normally give a cold start for a few minutes, but then we
like with the McRoy Bros, you know they didn't come up with like the full Randall right away.
No, yeah. They took them a few times before they mastered that little skit.
Alrighty then.
All right. Well, today we have a special guest. If you didn't notice, it's not an idiot dad.
It's an idiot mom.
It's an idiot mom. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Kathy. I'm not an idiot.
We'll let the fans decide. Our 5 subscribers that we've got now, not just 3.
They all love me more than you. They always have.
No.
The few seconds that she has talked right now, they already are adoring fans.
No.
The one kind of has to adore me.
Well, do you want to give us a little bit of your background before we start any further? Other than your name is Kathy.
I am Miguel's very intelligent sister. I apologize to the world.
I'm not good. Yeah, other than she tried to kill me, but whatever. It's fine. You tried to murder me.
We won't go there.
Yes.
I probably jump-started your brain is what I probably did.
I think you tried to murder me. But we're here today. We're going to be... Kathy decided to join us to talk about being a mom to some adolescents, some juvenile delinquents.
Yes.
And that will be part of our subjects today.
What are their age ranges?
11, 13, and 14.
And what kind of kids do you have?
Crazy.
Well, yeah, other than that.
11-year-old boy, 13-year-old girl, and 14-year-old boy.
And have any of them started high school yet?
No. I will start high school next year.
Next year for high school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that means that Josie and Miguel, because of course, are both in middle school, correct?
Yes, they're in middle school.
So we've got some teenagers in here, which brings us to our first question. We actually have fan questions now that we can answer. So the first question we got comes from Mustachioed Batman.
Oh dear.
He says, please talk about what to do when your child has trouble at school, either academically or social problems.
Yeah.
So, Adina's still just in elementary school, and she's had some academic problems. I've touched that in episodes prior, not major ones. Definitely doesn't have any social problems. I think that's where she excels the most at with other kids.
Didn't take after you.
What was the question again?
Please talk about what to do when your child has trouble at school, either academically or social problems.
So what's the parent's viewpoint on it?
Yeah, what's
How
the
to handle it.
Yeah, how to handle it. How has Kathy handled it? How have I handled it? And then how Mr. Austin here will handle it in the future.
Yeah.
With little baby Quill.
Quill.
Quillard for
Quillard?
proper. Quillard.
Oh yes, I love
Quilliam.
We'll call him Mallard for short.
Mallard.
Awesome.
So I guess let's touch on the academic part first. So,
Okay.
Have any of your kids ever had any academic problems?
The older two have not, but my youngest one, he has ADHD, and he struggles with math badly.
Now, can you give us a little insight on his ADHD? You don't have to go into embarrassing detail, but just for people who because I know when you first were having this problem with him, that was also during that time where everybody had ADD and everybody was getting medicated for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you know about it, Austin. What do you know about ADD?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
I think he's.
I don't know. I think it's something. It's obviously something that exists, but I think some parents use it as an excuse as well.
Mm-hmm.
That is my opinion. Yes.
I noticed that doctors just write it off. Like it's an easy diagnosis.
Correct.
Like maybe if it's like a social problem or not a mental, but like maybe an environmental problem too, or just poor discipline. The doctor will just write them off and give them some Ritalin or whatever is appropriate. Just to not solve put a Band-Aid over something rather than actually do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was younger, They said I had ADD and I had a learning disability,
I remember
which
that, yeah.
didn't really.
So they were right in that instance.
No, they were way off.
After having Miguel, my son, no, they were way off. Yeah, he was just awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they would say that, oh, I couldn't get things or whatever, but I got them. I just I think I just went a different direction. Like, I couldn't learn the straightforward way, but I did learn, and then I learned better when I was just given my own time to figure it out in my head.
Yeah.
So now that I just wanted to get an idea of like where Austin thinks of it and all that. So
where did the research of it start? Do any of us know that?
Oh, it's been a while since I've.
Did it start in America?
It.
Probably.
Probably.
I remember I have a cousin who had a slew of actual problems.
Yeah.
But one of the first things they did was ADD, and that was 92, because I remember actually going with him because my aunt used to watch me, and we went to the actual testing that he started. I may have not been at the initial one, but I was at his early onset one, and that's when they started like giving out Ritalin like it was
candy. Oh
yeah.
My gosh.
See, my thought is, it seems like culturally acceptable in America that if you're not the same in certain ways, there's something wrong.
Yes.
If your brain doesn't compute certain things right or takes a different route to get there, it seems like culturally speaking, America's like, well, there's something wrong with that kid, instead of just knowing they're just different. They're literally just a unique personality, but they're smarter and stronger in certain areas and weaker than others compared to the mass population.
Yeah.
See, now this is. So I went to a magnet school, and I give all credit to magnet schools because they're really good.
They are.
And I remember I was in kindergarten and they took me out of class with several other students, and they took us up. And in our school, where they would send the kids that were special education, was like in a room that was like on the third story. So we only had 2 stories. The older kids were on the second stories. The young kid was in the first story. And they took us all the way up to the third, which was literally just a room. You had to climb like these special stairs.
The attic.
Yeah, it was basically the attic. We had like a window to the outside, which was really cool. And then you had a window over the school, and you could actually see like the entire main hall and all the kids walking around. And they just sent us up there, and it was, I think there was 5 of us. And out of the 5, they told us, oh, well, we think that you guys need special help. And they each gave us a test, and I guess it was proven that we were all we were all special ed, but each one of us had way different problems.
Special ed or?
Special education. So, and that's where the problem came in, because two of the kids, their parents immediately took them out of it, saying, "No, my kids aren't special ed; they're not retarded." And I use that because that's actually what they said. I'm not saying that.
That's what people think when they hear special ed.
Yeah, just being offensive.
That's what they. I remember them because we had the meeting. My mom was there and all that. They said that I was and that I needed special education. I remember the other 2 parents saying, "No, mine kids don't need that." And I remember those 2 kids because they ended up struggling the rest of the time that they were in school. And I excelled. But it was because the special education moniker, even though there was 5 of us there, 2 of them had problems with the same as me. Like, I couldn't read very well, and I had a hard time grasping that part. But my math skills were amazing. Like, I got math real easy.
Again, it's just a classic example that you were different in a way that you excelled in certain areas and probably struggle in others, just like normal human beings.
Yeah, words themselves were what would trip me up. And it wasn't that I was dyslexic either, because there was another kid there who was dyslexic. He had a completely different set of problems than I did. So even reading, if somebody read me the problem, I got it right hands down, even word problems. But me reading the problem itself, I had to read it several times before I got what they were talking about. And I had to look at each individual word. And it was like I was translating it from another language. And that was the problem. But the more time I stood there, and the more, as long as people let me feel relaxed that I could take my time, I did well. Math was easy for me because numbers popped out to me real fast. So, but each one of us had a different problem, but the teacher that was the special ed teacher was amazing. Shout out to Mrs. Kent if you're listening to this.
She isn't.
She isn't, but she was.
You
but
never know.
She took her time with me, and she did it. My mom liked the idea, and she kept me in special ed all the way through high school, which helped because I ended up passing my I-STEP first.
Now, this is something I want to talk about: homeschooling versus public school.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
We do need to get back to Kathy on her.
No, we need to get back to
ADHD.
the question. We haven't even answered.
Well,
Mustachio Batman's question.
I know we do need to get back to that.
But that kind of brings me to some thoughts I have of my own about. There's some instances I could see where homeschooling is super beneficial, and then others, which I could go into it very deeply, but we could talk about it another time.
Another hour-long conversation.
But I did want to get back to Kathy as far as okay, so because I know with Junior,
yes,
his problem is he doesn't have ADD. He has ADHD.
Yes.
Which is far different than ADD. So,
yes.
Can you illuminate us on the difference and how you found out with Junior?
Well, ADD is just attention deficit. You can't pay attention. You're easily distracted. And other things, obviously. But ADHD is that, but on top of that, you're fidgeting and you can't sit still. And it's not... with those parents who, they just label them that because they're, a little, bouncy. He literally cannot sit still. I mean, he plays video games on an exercise ball and actually does acrobatics on this exercise ball.
And I've seen this.
Yes. He cannot sit still. If you can't sit still, how are you going to focus? How is a teacher going to teach you?
And it's not like your kids are not disciplined. Just in my observation, your kids are very well mannered, and when you tell them to do something, they right quick go do it.
Yeah.
So it's not like he just
it's
has
not
a ball
willful.
of energy. It just never goes away.
And imagine how you would feel if you had just drunk 6 Monsters in a row. Okay? That's how you feel. That's how he feels all the time if he's not moving. I mean, that's just his natural state of being.
What does he do when he sleeps? Does he crash hard? Or does he sleep well at nights? Or
he has never had a problem sleeping. Never. He sleeps very well.
He has a good time sleeping 7-8 hours.
Yeah, he probably sleep longer. He has actually fallen out of the bed and stayed asleep. I frequently go into his room to wake him up in the morning, and he is on the floor. And I'm like, why are you sleeping on the floor? I don't know. I'm just here. He doesn't know how he got there. Because, he does. He sleeps rather hard. But in addition to that, he has the ADHD, but he also has what's called SPD, which is sensory processing disorder, which if you look it up, I'm only going to say this just so that he's not labeled incorrectly. It is on the autism spectrum, but he is not autistic.
Yeah, I remember researching before, and that is one aspect of autism.
Yes.
I see what you're saying, though. It's not that he is autistic. That's just a trait that autism usually have.
Autism, ADHD, it's the diagnosis is so wide that just about anybody could be put in there if you wanted to put them in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you want, which I guess is kind of what sort of happened in the early 90s with a lot of these people.
That's exactly what was happening. Yeah.
You got all these people getting on ADDs because, almost any kid can be put in that spectrum. I mean, unless your child is creepy Omen style.
Yeah, exactly.
Even then, probably you would. Because I've known Junior for a long time, and it's kind of funny with your kids is your kids run sort of like this sort of solar spectrum, I'd almost say.
Uh-huh.
With your oldest being super calm, collected. I've never really seen him have a fit or really been upset about anything. He's just very polite all the time. But he has the weirdest social problem where it's not like he's socially outcast. It's it's almost as if he has this, and it's so weird to talk about aside because he doesn't have a cockiness to him, but he has this. This is the way I think, and he has this self-assuredness.
Yes.
that is like, but it's almost like innocent wise. It's almost like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed all the time, but you're kind of looking at him like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, isn't this the way it's always been? And it's like, no, what are you talking about? But he does it, and he's extremely intelligent and he can pick up things very minutely. But he has like this weird sort of disconnect on like social politeness. But in an innocent, like, almost enduring way.
Yeah. He's very black and white. This is the truth. This is a lie.
Yeah, he doesn't... I can't see him lying. That's the problem.
Going back to you say SPD.
Yes.
Now, that basically just means that it takes them a while, or if not, they can't always process another person's feeling or their behavior. Like, if I was to say I'm happy... and I was not to say that, it would be hard for him to process that? Is that what that is?
No. Sensory processing disorder, it involves your senses.
Okay.
Sight, touch, noise.
What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of something totally different.
I think so, but I don't know
Asperger's.
exactly.
You're thinking of Asperger's.
Is that just the...
And that is on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
But there's another word, but I can't think of what it is right
Yeah,
now.
that's what I thought when you said sensory. I was thinking...
Newton has Asperger's.
Who?
Well, yeah, most of the geniuses probably had stuff on this spectrum, I'm sure.
All over the spectrum.
All over the spectrum. But
Isaac Newton was pretty...
So I guess explain what SPD then is.
SPD is a normal person. They see something, they hear something. When the activity around them becomes too much, overwhelming. Oh, it's too loud. I should walk over there where it's quieter. Oh, there are too many people. I might want to leave. A person with SPD, they get those feelings, but it takes I'm very oversimplifying this, but it takes their brain a considerable amount of time to figure out why they feel that way. And I don't even mean they figure out, oh, there's too many people, I should leave. A good example is maybe 2 years ago, I took my kids to a cancer walk in Marion, and there were thousands of people in the street. During this cancer walk, he was the happiest little boy, having so much fun. 20 minutes later, we get to the restaurant, and he threw one of those classic temper tantrums about the most benign thing. I can't even remember what it was. And he could not calm down. He was screaming, he was crying, he couldn't breathe, he couldn't answer simple questions. But yeah, he had no self-control because his body did not understand why he was so anxious. So if you don't know why you're anxious, because the trigger happened so long before, how do you cope if you don't know why you're anxious?
So he was basically having an exciting time, but had no idea why he was having an excited time, and then he reacted.
Yeah, because the body overreacts because it doesn't know what happened.
A person that doesn't have that would have a fun time and go, I'm having a fun... They would do this all almost unconsciously, like, I'm having a fun time because I'm with people. Yeah. This is it's a good day, whatever. Yeah. But a person with that disorder, it either doesn't... They can't compute that, or it takes them a lot longer.
It takes a long time to compute. And it isn't the fun time. It's the overwhelmingness of it.
Okay.
Isn't that kind of like how shock works, in all honesty? Like, if you get into a bad car wreck, you seem calm and collected, and everything's fine. You're just wondering, people think you're okay, and then it's not until, like, a half hour later, they realize, oh, you're bleeding. Oh, you got into a bad... Like, you actually hurt yourself, but your body's so in shock. It's kind of like a mental version of that.
Maybe that might be kind of right, but then you have to remember that this is also going on in the mind of a child.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, like you think everything's all right, and then all of a sudden the child realizes, I was surrounded by 1,000 people, and the anxiety that it was so overwhelming. It's kind of like, you get to a certain point and your brain just can't process it, and then finally when it calms down, but you're coming down from an extreme high.
This is the mind of a child, so a person, when they have shock and they have this reaction, they know why they had that reaction. It's delayed, but they know why. The child never learned that coping skill because it always takes so long. Mm-hmm. So they're like, what the heck? I don't know what's going on. So they can't learn to cope. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's his issue. 20 minutes later.
Oh, no. I think it's good to break it down because I obviously didn't have any idea what you were talking about.
Well, and people are going to go through this, and that's kind of why I want to, like, there's a big difference between having ADD, having ADHD. Because I've heard people use the term, "Oh, my child has ADD" or "My child has ADHD," and I've watched them. And I'm like, I've seen absolutely nothing wrong with your child. And maybe
just
later on,
McDonald's every day, and
well, if you hook your kid up on 6 cafe mochas and you taking them to Starbucks every day and you're doing all that, and then you expect.
Fun fact: caffeine is good for children with ADHD. I don't mean give them 6 Mountain Dews. Caffeine is good, in quotation marks, for children with ADHD, within reason, obviously. You don't give them a ton. And you were just complaining to me before we recorded this that I let my son have a Frappuccino at 8 o'clock at night.
Hey, I'm just pointing out the obvious.
But for him, it is a soothing thing. My husband actually gives him a couple of drinks of his coffee in the morning.
Oh, his coffee. Got you. Wink, wink.
He's
have some coffee, kid.
he's my kid's dad, not my dad. But
that was Dad's coping mechanism.
The way the brain is wired is a little bit backwards with ADHD, and so the caffeine calms them down. So if you give them 6 cups of coffee and some Mountain Dew, then yeah, they're going to go haywire. But a little bit can actually taper it down some.
So it's kind of leveling them off a little bit.
Yeah, take the edge off.
Nice. Does he take medication at all for anything?
He does.
Because you do it in a very special way, which I really like. Because it makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure doctors or something will disagree. But once again, you have to take every situation. Every child is slightly different.
Yeah.
I don't want to we're not promoting any sort of medical treatment, but at the same time, this is what you found has worked.
Yes.
Please talk to your doctor or family physician before trying anything that we say.
What we do, actually, we work with our doctor. My doctor and I have talked about this, and this is something we've developed over years. First, she prescribed him, it's Concerta, it's not Ritalin, I don't know the chemical differences. She prescribed him the lowest dose possible. When we started, he was having, the worst time, had no control. Emotionally, he was haywire years ago. And we started him on 1 pill a day of the lowest dose. And after a while, it started working. Okay? While that started working, I was giving behavioral training, figuring out what consequences worked with him, what study methods worked with him, and then as he got more in control of himself and started learning those habits, we started cutting the Concerta down. First, we went to giving it every other day. And then it was every 3rd day. And now we're actually only giving it to him twice a week. And on top of that, if he's not going to school, he does not take it.
Yeah.
So weekends, he doesn't take it. Right now, they're on winter break. He will not take it the entire 2 weeks. Summer vacation, he does not take it at all. Unless we have, something where I know he's going to have to be focused for an extended period of time, which almost never happens on summer break.
I think there's only one time a year that he probably have to go through.
And again, during those times, specifically during the times when he does not have school and he is not on meds, we work on the behavioral training. I think that is the most important because you don't want your child on these meds when they're adults. And if you don't teach them these behavioral methods, coping skills, when they're children, then they're going to be medicated adults or non-functioning adults.
I like that concept because I think in a lot of ways meds shouldn't just band-aid problems. They should use to help a solution.
Yes.
And it seems like doctors usually agree for the most part.
Yeah.
I think maybe the last 10 years that started becoming the case because going back, because with me and Kathy, we did have a really close family member who had pretty much, I would almost say the exact same problem as Junior did. The problem with him, though, was he was very large.
Very large.
And I don't mean just like, a heavy guy. He was, very tall, very muscular, and even at the age of, I think, like 8 or 9, he was already towering over most of the family.
Yeah.
And he had these same problems. So then that came into effect. I don't think they didn't do any sort of behavioral training.
No,
I remember him carrying around a bag.
The concept of behavioral training.
He carried around like a gallon bag, a Ziploc bag of just medication.
A Ziploc bag full of medication.
And he took these for maybe 10 years.
Yep.
And then he went to go live with his grandparents, who were Hispanic, and I think they went on a trip to Mexico, and they just threw the medication
all his
away.
meds out.
The problem with that, though, is he went from being highly medicated to then being not medicated, and a lot of that stuff is addictive.
Yeah.
I think Ritalин's one of the biggest ones. It's addictive.
It's
so all of a sudden he just didn't have any of it. So he went from being the weight that he was that they got him first on there, no behavioral training. He was addicted to this medicine. Now he's in withdrawal, unable to handle any of the situation. And they did this to him, and I think he was like this for maybe a year. And I remember being over there and hanging out with him, and we would have like these huge brawls. Brawls where clothes were ripped off, and I would get like sucked into the middle of it because there was a lot of boys in the house, and they were a lot older than he was, so they were able to take him. But the problem was
you weren't older.
I wasn't older. I couldn't handle it. And again, I couldn't handle it when there was 4 of them all fighting at the same time, but I get sucked into it.
So it really seems like it just takes time. There's time and energy that needs to be invested.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
To
you can't
help them not only succeed, but to excel.
Yeah, and I think
it's a lot of work.
I think that's what happened when these guys got older. Because with him, it was the same thing. He then eventually ended up getting a drug addiction and all that.
Yeah.
But I have to almost say, it's like, I think he was just self-medicating, in all honesty.
Yes.
Because he wasn't doing it. I don't think he was actually doing it because he wanted to do this stuff. I think his brain literally was screaming, "Can you help me for anything?" Mm-hmm. And I think that's what ended up happening to a lot of these guys that you see. Because I went to school with a lot of people like this. They were, they had these problems and they were on these medications, and then the goal is to get off. You're not supposed to be on Ritalin when you're 30.
People forget that goal.
And then, so people forgot that goal. So when they got to 24, 25, and they couldn't carry jobs and all that because they were so medicated all the time, and then they lost their insurance, and then they went to drugs, and they said, "Oh, well, he's always been a bad egg." I feel like that's kind of a bad rap because he wasn't a bad egg. You just never got the chance to learn how to handle this. You were on drugs since you were a kid. And these drugs can be stronger. I'm not saying that they're not good. They don't have benefits. But at the same time, it's like anything else. You need to
So as a parent,
control.
the key is talk to your doctor, getting the right medication, but doing it so you're using it hand in hand with training, behavioral training too.
And there are licensed behavioral therapists.
Yeah.
So it's always a good thing to get.
Yeah, don't, watching this from, other friends, especially being like in the special ed group that I was, and I stayed in special ed all the way up until I graduated. I watched as some of these kids growing up, and the parents that, not to say that all the parents were like this, but there were parents who just, I'm just going to medicate my child and forget about it.
That's common. I don't think I've heard anybody that on top of my head that has approached a situation like that and not just thrown medication and just solved the issue and actually did more than just that. So I think that's something that people can learn from and adapt to their circumstance.
You need to work with your child. You need to educate your child. And this is where we're going to get into the education part, because this is the part where, not every, so I have a big problem with the education system because, once again, I started high school. I believe middle school is when they started the whole No Child Left Behind thing. And then that's when all schools were graded by test scores. And I ended my education with that same mentality. So I kind of saw the beginning of it, and then I also started seeing the end of it when they started realizing, and they're still doing it now, but people started seeing the faultiness of this thinking that test scores, because now you're grading children on a standardized test. But if you're a child like a junior, if you're a child like me, or someone who's on Ritalin, how do you grade someone in a general census when not everybody can learn the same way. For instance, if you can't learn a word problem, or you can't sit still in a study hall and for 2 hours to take this huge test, but you have to do it because you could be cheating any other way. So that kind of goes into your thing where you were saying, well, maybe homeschool would be better. Or I think you were just asking what you prefer.
Like I said, this is probably a good conversation for another episode.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, but I do want to touch on it.
They were part of that conversation.
Well, I do want to touch on it a little bit because I feel like it kind of fits in with what we're talking about.
No matter, as long as a school can teach your kid the fundamental principles of mathematics, how to spell, read, and write, I think the most important part of schooling is getting your kids to adapt socially at a young age. Because I've seen examples
I can see that, yeah.
where there's kids where even in elementary had started homeschool, but the parents never got them in group settings, and they were the most socially awkward kids as well.
And see, and I think that's so the argument between whether homeschooling or public school or private school or whatever is better. The problem is, in homeschooling, you are the determination of that. So you only have yourself to blame if your child isn't good at math. You only have yourself to blame if your child. You have to work at that.
And I also have a problem with the way they do homeschooling now is set up so the kid just is left on their computer and the parents aren't involved. I don't agree with that. I think if you're going to decide to do homeschooling for your kid,
you should be the
teacher. You should be the teacher or at least sit with them as they're going through their studies, if it's maybe set up in a way where they're talking to a teacher on Skype.
And that's why, because we visited the homeschooling idea, because my older two are the opposite of their brother. They're extremely smart. They're already reading. Their school library cannot give them books because they are past high school level reading.
I think they read textbooks for fun. I remember.
They do.
I remember coming here during the summer on their summer break, and they were all sitting here. No TV was on, and they were reading. I think Asai was reading some sort of science book and asking me a question, and I was like, "What are you doing? Turn on the TV. It's summer vacation."
These are going to be smart kids.
And I was like, and I think I had to force them to come swimming, and even then, the two oldest came in jeans and a t-shirt with no swimming shorts, and Junior was
they're
the
your
one.
retirement plan.
Yeah.
Yes, no, actually, I've already told my children. I think Junior is going to be the rich one because he's gonna explode eventually and become awesome. I mean, not that he isn't awesome now.
He's going to focus all his energy on one thing.
He's going to be my Steve Jobs, and they're going to be my I don't know.
It's what I did.
Anyway, Isai is actually currently reading a textbook on muscles.
Yeah, see.
He is. And he loves it. But, public school really right now is not serving them well because they're past what they're learning, but they're not like that smart kid that can be past
I have a
grade
problem
levels.
with most teachers and principals too. I mean, there's a few good apples in the basket, but there's so many bad ones too that
I'm gonna correct you on that one because having known teachers, especially when I went to college, I actually met a lot of my old teachers. The problem isn't so much that they're bad apples; it's that they aren't given the ability.
I think it depends which school. I went to a podunk
public
Churubusco school in the country.
That's true. I went to the big city school. I was in the city folk.
Public schools, and this is why all three of my children are not being serviced well in public schools because they are mandated to teach a very specific way, and they have to teach to get good I-STEP scores. Okay, which is why my children can't advance. My older two can't advance, and which is why my youngest is not being taught the way he needs to be taught.
Are they scrapping that? I keep hearing on the news that there's something.
They're trying to scrap it, but the problem is it's one of those things.
They can't replace it. They don't know what to replace it with.
Because the way they've done the funding. Because the reason they did it the first way was because you had a whole bunch of schools that were doing badly, and they weren't doing anything different. And so they were like, well, fine, if you're not going to change the way you're doing things and you're just going to keep bringing out bad students, then we're going to stop funding you. Problem with that is the system they set up is scoring by test scores. Well, unless you have good test takers, and that's all you're testing.
The
I mean,
thing
that's
with
your knowledge
iStep,
is tests.
what is completely crazy with iStep, I think, and I don't understand it too well, is it asks you questions on things you haven't been taught yet.
Yeah, and when you're given the test, they're basically just teaching you how to take a test.
Yeah.
Because they're not actually training you on the information.
I remember growing
you
up,
just
I
memorize the answers,
broke down the analytics of it, and I knew if I didn't know a question, I would just fill in C.
Yeah.
You know, like little patterns like that, I was always really quick to grasp, and I always just barely passed everything.
But, okay, so here's my question. When did you actually pass your final I-step so that you could graduate? What grade were you in?
I don't remember if I had to.
Wow.
Because in high school...
We always took I-step every year, I think up until... I don't know if in the last 2 years of high school I had to.
I was going to say, it wasn't every year in high school. Wasn't it every other year or something?
You only had to pass it...
I don't remember.
When I was in high school, you only had to pass the major one once. Once you passed it, you could graduate. So it didn't matter whether you did it as a freshman or if you did it as a sophomore.
Honestly, I don't remember.
So it sounds like you probably did it as a sophomore. I think you were out of school before that.
I was going to say, I was
I
way before
co-opted
that, yeah.
within my third year of high school. I co-opted the rest of my high school life.
I passed it, I believe, when I was a freshman. And I know the reason why I passed it was because they literally gave it to me as, well, just take it. Like, they didn't even try with me. But the difference was, for me, the teachers in the special ed program taught me. And so when I got the questions, I wasn't using the little tricks of, like, if it's not these three things, then, then go for C. Or one thing that I didn't even learn until I was in college, if you have 3 questions and it says all of the above, it's always going to be all of the above. You do that. Me, I actually just learned all this stuff.
You just memorized the answers.
See, it's the what is the theory? It's not order of operations. I always get that confused.
FOIL?
Deduction.
Yeah, you deduced it.
Yeah, the order of deduction
I
or
was
whatever
going a
the
whole
term
different
is. Well, you have a question that says all the above, and it's like, who was our first president? Daffy Duck, Abraham Lincoln, or George Washington, or all the above?
I think it was Daffy Duck.
Well, I'd say you can take out two. You can take out one answer, then you can take 2 answers, and then you're left with. I mean, it's just. It's the science of taking a test, not actually learning the knowledge of why it's important.
And that's where I was kind of blessed with, because I actually ended up knowing all that stuff. Because I loved learning, because my teachers made me love learning,
and
because it was so hard for me to learn.
Where a lot of mistakes are made, and maybe just this culture, is you start to get away of teaching principles, and you're teaching just facts.
Yeah.
I mean,
but not being taught how to actually think.
There's some circumstances, if you're learning government or social studies, there's certain things where you do have to know facts, and you don't have to excel at that. I mean, just know what's up, what happened. But when you comes to like grammar and math, and if you learn equations and learn patterns, and if they teach you and hit you hard with that, you can deduce what the answer is, or if you're trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, I mean. And it basically comes down to, like, you don't need to know the answer to the math problem. You just need to know what probably isn't the answer to the math problem. But does that really help you in math? Because you're not really doing the math. Like, if you got, like, a complicated equation and you can rule out 2 of them just because, well, these are more absurd than the other 2, but you don't really know the math problem, like, how helpful is it? You're not really learning math. You're just learning something else, like, you know, and that's the problem.
Instead of having a 100-question quiz on solve these math issues, why not have just like 20 questions of the equation to do it?
Well, and when I went into college, that's where, like, that actually helped me, because you know, we were when I went into college, and I went into college much later. I went into college almost 7 years after I graduated. So after I graduated high school, 7 years later, I went into college. One of the first courses I had to take was math, and it was sort of an advancement. And I think I touched before that I took math backwards from everyone else. So when I first started taking math, everyone thought I was failing and I was dumb, and I was actually taking senior math. I got confused with another Miguel Guzman, and he was taking my freshman.
There's a lot.
Yeah, well, he got my diploma too. There's a lot. That's a long story too. But I was taking senior math while he was taking freshman math. But when I went back in there, I was with all these nurses and things. I was going for medical scientists. They were going for nursing. And none of them knew anything that the teacher was talking about. And the teacher was going on, and I think I got in big trouble one day because I was just sitting there scribbling. And she was going through the whole lesson plan, and she was doing her lecture, and she was getting annoyed because a lot of the nurses would get on Facebook or work on their chemistry homework, stuff that they understood better than math. And she yelled at me one day in front of the class, and she's like, what are you doing? You're always working on other stuff. And I kind of looked at her in shock. I was like, oh, I'm not working on other stuff. I'm doing the work. And she looked. I was doing the work. I was doing the work 4 chapters ahead because I got the syllabus. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know this already. I just went ahead and did the rest of it. And the rest of them have no idea what she's even talking about. We're doing like calculus and algebra and all this stuff. I was like, I know all this stuff. I don't really. So I'm just working. And I wasn't making any trouble for anyone. She just thought I was doing other homework because she's having to like break all this. She's like, so I don't have to tell you any of this. And so she had me go up in front of the class, and she put 3 problems. There's 3 random problems of what we were learning. I figured them out in like 2 minutes, and she said, all right, you go back there, and we don't need to talk
anymore.
And she ended up being my science teacher later on. She was actually one of the heads of the program that I was in for medical scientists, and she realized, I don't need to worry about you. You do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, as long as you're getting it.
See, but that's a good teacher.
Yeah, because at that point she knew there was nothing she could teach me. I just needed to finish the work. But our tests were just like you said. She didn't give us, and that's what made all the nurses mad. She wouldn't give us multiple choice. She gave us problems.
Exactly.
And she even gave us word problems and things like that.
Multiple choice. That's what my whole point of like the past 10 minutes is like.
Yeah.
Multiple choices are worthless.
Yeah. You can deduce it, but that doesn't mean that you know it.
No, not at all.
And that's not always good, especially when you get into professions like
and that
medical
is what
career.
iStep is. That is what iStep is. I don't know if they do iStep in other states. Is it just Indiana?
iStep is nationwide.
Okay.
Standardized.
So
no, it's not nationwide. It's Indiana.
If anybody
Everyone has to do an iStep form.
But it's not called iStep.
Oh, that's true. It might be called.
If anybody who doesn't understand what iStep is, you have this half sheet of paper and it's filled with bubbles.
Yeah.
Every question has has 5 bubbles, and you have to circle them in, and then it goes through some kind of machine, and it tests your answer. So it's literally every single question is a multiple choice for the whole thing that determines whether you pass or not, or what your standing is in school.
Yeah.
Funny story. Talking about the bubbles, just because I'm pretty sure someone has always done this. Okay,
Bubbles.
so I did my iStep. I did the one that you needed to graduate the first year, and you get like 3 hours to do the test. I finished the test in like the first hour and a half, which was still pretty fast. But here's the thing: I get to the end of the test, and I'm like, I don't have enough bubbles. I think I still had like 5 questions left. I was and I was like. Oh dear Lord! And I go back and I have to go through each question because I multiple answered one.
And that's time test.
It's a time test. So I had to go back and then redo all the questions, and it covered everything from literature, math, and all that. And
That is horrible.
So I ended up like one of the last people to put the test, but I had to like erase, and you have to erase good. Like you can't like my eraser was like almost gone, and I couldn't figure out which one I like doubled on, and I finally found it, and I was like, oh no!
That's terrible.
And I redid it because I was like, oh, what did I do wrong?
And it was like question number 2, right?
Yeah, it was like pretty far up there. Because I went backwards and I was like, well, I've got 5 more, so I must have like really jacked something up.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
yeah.
horrible.
So when it comes to kids in school, how do you think kids have a problem socially and academically?
Well, I mean, academically, we really
going back to the original question.
we really hit the academic part of it. And the socialized part, which is funny because I guess that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with your kids.
Yeah.
While Junior, I believe, has the hardest part academically, he's the most normal out of your 3 children for
Socially.
being 11-year-old. He acts like an 11-year-old. He acts like what I imagine an 11-year-old would act like. Your other kids, however, speaking of your son and your daughter,
Correct.
do not act. Your daughter acts like she's 65.
Yes.
And I feel like she should always be like knitting like a sock. Because
if I taught her to knit, she probably
She has
would.
an old soul.
Like,
she is very much an
going
old
back
soul.
to, like, I came over here, it was one of the hottest days of the year. I asked your kids, do you want to go swimming? They said no. And I said, when have you last gone outside? I don't think they'd been outside for maybe 3 days. And they weren't watching TV. They were reading books.
Yeah.
And Junior was playing video games. Junior ran down here and said, let's go swimming in his swim trunks.
Yes.
The other two refused. And they went to the swimming pool. They went to the swimming pool. They have swimsuits. They went to the swimming pool in full clothing, wearing sweatshirts and everything on the hottest days. And, of course, got sick from heat exhaustion.
Yes.
At a pool.
At a pool. Heat exhaustion at a pool.
So.
My kids are awesome.
Going to the social part, that's where I think even though they're geniuses, Josie is a musician. She understands music and she loves to read. Literature, Asai, he has this very scientific mind, very matter of fact. He even has a very creative side to him.
I was going to say, all three of them are excellent artists.
Yeah, but when it comes to interacting with other kids, I feel like they like inside being a big brother. Do you have an older brother, Austin?
No, I'm the oldest.
But you've been around older boys, right?
Yeah.
You guys normally fought and wrestled and did all that kind of stuff, right? When you were let's say 13 or younger.
I mostly hung out with kids my age, honestly.
But did you guys
Did you have wrestling fights with your brothers?
I hated it. No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've never anybody that just wanted to wrestle all the time. I'm just like,
well, not wrestle, but let's say did wanting to physical activity, play sports.
That's stereotypical boy stuff.
I want to go play soccer outside, or I want to squirt guns or whatever. You paintball. You liked paintballing, right?
Mm-mm. Well, I do, but I've never played.
Oh well.
Okay, we're outdoorsy.
I do, but I've never played.
I've always looked at it from afar and wondered.
We did airsoft and stuff, but
okay.
I never hung out with kids that wanted to play sports a lot, but a lot of wilderness stuff. Did a lot of camping.
But the key point is you hung out with kids.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going out with just being outdoorsy.
Well, it's not about being outdoor. I would never consider myself an outdoorsy person, but I love to the point where I think my parents told me one time. You are not allowed to go play soccer if you didn't do this and this and this. And I felt horribly sick. And I went and did this with this older woman. I was helping her out. And we were going to people's houses. And I felt horrible, but I wanted to play soccer. And I'm like, no, I'm going to play soccer today. And we get to somebody's house, and I threw up on them. As soon as they opened the door, and the old lady was horrified. The person was horrified. And then I'm in their lawn saying, I'm sorry. And my parents are like, what happened? And I was like, I wanted to play soccer. They're like, you're going home and going to bed. They thought I was joking.
Yeah. They usually think we're faking. Our parents did whenever we said we were sick.
But I really that's how much I enjoyed going out and doing stuff. I loved going out and riding my bike. I loved playing soccer. Even though I hate sports, I do not like watching sports. The only sports activity, I will go to a hockey game and I will watch the Super Bowl. Those are the only two. Anything else, I ain't doing. You can't make me. I like playing volleyball too. But I like playing sports. But as far as sitting anything else with sports, so we would do this stuff. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'd wrestle with all my cousins and my friends, and we would do all this stuff. Asai, the oldest, is terrified of this stuff. Yeah. I've watched him, he will do anything to avoid any sort of and it's just weird to me because he seems normal, he seems like everything, but these things, I think he honestly has anxiety about doing this stuff.
Okay, I want to defend my son.
You try, but...
Okay. The reason he doesn't go outside is because he is deathly allergic to outside.
That is true. Your son almost died from a mosquito. I remember
Yes,
this.
his hand swelled up to the size of a football from one mosquito bite on his pinky. If he touches grass, he turns into a human rash. One time, he turned into a human pus ball. I am not exaggerating. Pus leaking from his pores. Not from a boil. From his pores and out his eyeball. So this is why he does not like to go outside. Okay, and his siblings just kind of caught on that because, big brother doesn't go outside, so we're not going outside. So
but Junior does. Junior, at the drop of a hat, will be like, it's freedom!
Well, he's a little older.
Let's poke this cat with a stick, yeah!
And then...
what's going on?
And the reason he doesn't play sports is because the boy can't catch a ball to save his life.
Which is so funny because
It's hilarious.
he's not like out of shape. That's the best part.
Yeah,
He's very
yes.
tall and lanky. Like you think he'd be a basketball pro. But
He
no.
runs. He can run. And I don't know if this is a big deal. I don't know if this is normal because I can't do it. The boy can run 6 miles in an hour.
What? That's a lie.
No, we have a treadmill. We have a treadmill, and he runs. He runs until he hits 6 miles, and it usually takes him an hour, give or take 10 minutes.
I love that he calls foul on that. He's like, no one can run 6 miles an hour. It's physically impossible.
He does.
I guess he can.
He does. Now he does it on a flat surface. When I go on the treadmill, it's only 3.5 miles an hour, but I'm at 10 incline because I got my mama's hips. Yeah, so he's very physically fit. He can do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups, like, in a row. So, yes, he's not a wimp. People, please don't imagine some fat little tubby,
No,
thing.
he's very tall and lanky.
He's tall and lanky, but he's just not coordinated and allergic to outside.
He's allergic to nature. Nature wants to kill him.
Yes, nature wants to kill him. He is 100% allergic to it.
And your daughter, not a girly girl.
At all.
Does not like makeup. How old is she again?
She's
13, right?
and she refuses to put on frickin' lip gloss.
She doesn't like makeup. I think the most she's ever done is she colored one strip of her hair, and then everyone gave her a hard time about it. She never tried.
She still wants to do that.
Oh, okay. I think that's the only girly part about it.
Yes,
Might as well just go like
it's
one
too much
white
work.
streak down the
No,
front.
that's what Junior wants to do. We won't visit that again.
Call her,
Let's
call her
not-
Rogue.
let's not
What is that,
talk about
Rogue?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's.
She wants to color her hair, but she has very dark hair, and coloring her hair the way she
You
wants.
could be like
to is
Miguel
very
and dye your
time-consuming.
hair black when he already has black hair.
Yeah.
Until it burned my head.
Yeah, that burned your head. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
It mixed with my medicine and it went bad.
And the scar on the back of your neck is fun. I love it.
But I think that's funny because I quite remember you being the opposite, and you always had like tons of makeup, and you always had the dresses, and I don't think you ever went out of the house without makeup when you were
Party
younger.
girl.
Okay, I did not go out of the house without makeup because I had really bad skin.
Oh, pizza face.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh
I
my
was called that frequently.
I remember that.
I actually didn't like dresses. Mom and Dad just made me wear them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I didn't particularly like
Okay,
them.
that's right, because when you were in the house, you were going through your grunge phase. You had lots of flannel.
That's right. Yes.
You listened to Nirvana and
Right. Yeah. I
remember
actually,
that.
yes, I would still be in a grunge phase if my husband didn't complain.
And then you married a guy whose favorite musician is Celine Dion.
Yeah, no, don't ask me on that one. I don't know how that happened.
Doesn't
let me
speak
tell ya.
English, but man, does Celine Dion come on? That dude has perfect pitch.
If I had known that before we got married, let's just say the marriage would not have happened. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do remember after you guys got married, though, you went through the whole like Chicana phase, and you like dyed your hair blonde, and you
That was
did the
because
very.
he told me to.
Yeah, we'll have to post a picture of it on. We'll make that the YouTube thing of Kathy and Miguel when she went through her Chicana phase.
Hey. I was cute.
So who do you think is the who would you say is a disciplinarian in
Me.
You are.
Oh yeah,
I'm
definitely.
the disciplinarian, yes.
So the what do you say? The stereotypical man as being disciplinarian isn't always true.
No, not at all.
Do you think in your guys' relationship, do you think what stereotypically the man's role is? I guess just.
Are you saying her
No,
husband's not the man?
wait. Let's back up a second. Let's just stick with the disciplinarian aspect.
I was going to say, I am uncomfortable addressing that in a public
No.
forum.
That could be edited out.
Yes.
That question took a dark turn real fast.
I just-
Dark turn.
I'm trying to get back to the topic of idiot dads.
Oh yeah, you're trying to get into the
Okay,
dads.
My husband is not a disciplinarian. And he's not wrong in the things that he says. He believes children should be children. For instance, a huge problem that I don't want not problem incongruency in our beliefs is I believe that the children should be doing chores, and he does not think they should be doing it as strictly as I do. They each have specific chores that they do, and I expect them to be done without me having to nag them, without me having to tell them, and then if they don't do it, there are consequences.
I see the fruit of the labors, though. Your kids seem very well mannered in the aspect of like.
Yes.
But see, I think that's only because our father.
Yes, I very much got that from my father. Yes.
Because I remember my dad waking up Kathy at like 4 a.m. to do dishes because he wanted a pan.
One pan. He wanted one pan.
Because my dad had this like nasty habit of waking up at 4 a.m. and wanting to eat, but he didn't want to do the dishes, so he'd make Kathy. Yes. But then he'd also make me at like age 7 crawling around in asbestos-filled attics to help him with construction jobs.
Okay. Now I'm gonna have to defend my dad. I honestly think that those were just excuses for him to have quality time. Because he wanted to be the macho man, so...
I was 7 years old coughing up black lung.
Yeah, but we didn't really know what asbestos was back then.
It was like 1998. Anyway, they knew what asbestos was.
Okay, he still doesn't know what asbestos is.
Anyway. I will grant you, I don't think he knows what it is.
You know what? He was doing as best as he can.
No, you don't get a laugh on that. Anyway. So, but my husband, if he comes home and I'm yelling at my kids for not doing their chores, or if he comes home and he's very much a very neat, freaky person, like to the extreme. And if it's not done, he comes in, he screams, hollers, hoots, and yells. He's mad. He does the chores. The kids come in and say, "Okay, Dad, I'm doing it." No, get out of my way. He does the chore. So it's like, so that's where we differ on discipline. But I think that situation is because the argument is between he and I rather than between he and the kids. But because I see that as a form of training and discipline, and he doesn't understand my theory there.
He doesn't understand my theory.
So yeah. So when I get angry at the kids, he doesn't understand why. And so then he's like, "You're so mean, you're so mean, you're so mean." They're just kids, so I don't know.
What are some of his strengths, though, that are particular maybe with you guys?
Because
everybody's different. Everybody has
Yeah.
different roles, and they're not always, gender specific or anything. So in your guys' house, what do you think? What are some of his strengths that he brings?
Oh dear. Well, it's such a vague question. I'm not certain how to answer it.
So what's great about your husband? That's vague. Like, I don't know.
Is he really good working with them with like their homework or quality time?
No, they've never really needed help with homework.
I guess that's true.
No, I mean, from what I see, Miguel's like very mild tempered.
Yes.
Which is very different, like with my dad. Like I see Miguel, for instance, like taking Asai back to as a good example, because Asai and me are very different, but like we have like very similar upbringings. My dad would take me to go work with him, but my dad would get so frustrated working with me because we didn't speak the same language, which was a big thing, which is sad because we grew up with each other. My dad's been in the U.S. way longer than anyone else,
longer than me.
But me and him and like we never could, like, it took us years before we finally got our communication down. Yeah. But Asai, like I see like his dad like actually teaching him.
He's an
how
excellent
to do this.
Teacher.
He's like, this is how this works, and he's very, very calm and collected.
He's like you said, more mild mannered.
Yeah,
yes.
Very level headed.
Yeah,
he can
is he
teach
the voice
very
of
well.
reason?
I'm
I'm trying here.
I think we better change the subject before someone gets in trouble.
Okay, I want to defend myself now. This is the thing that works in our marriage and makes us excellent parents, he and I. He and I are two opposites on the spectrum of parenting and discipline and work and everything. When we first got married, I was a nasty, dirty slob, and he was, hear him. And he's a slob, so you know that means something come out of him.
I will defend myself on this one. Ever since I became a medical scientist, I've been very clean.
Cran and on the passenger seat.
And what? What's on the passenger seat?
Don't know.
The crayons that melted on your
Oh, crayons! Okay.
That's not my fault. It was like 300 degrees outside, and Adina left crayons on the seat.
For
They melted.
300 days, it's been on the
300
seat.
days.
I can't get them off. I don't know how. Anyways, come back to your thing.
I want to talk. Okay, so anyway, and he was very much, like I said, the neat freak, the very picky perfectionist, and it's the same in our parenting. I am the very strict, and I understand I'm too strict, and he was the very lenient, and I think that our two extremes, we meet each other in the middle.
So he's able to say, "Whoa, settle down there."
Yes, he can calm me down when I'm being overly critical, and I can, build him up when he's being too lenient. So it's difficult for me to answer that question.
No, I think you answer it in a perfect way.
Yeah.
That working as a team.
Yes, he and I are, in my opinion, I'm not trying to get mushy, we are a perfect match team to parent the little crazies that we have. Oh no, don't make me cry. But it's true. I think that we were really lucky.
That's what I like about this show, and that's one of the things I like talking to people about. Is I think it seems like being a parent works better when you guys both work as a team.
Yes.
Instead of that kind of masculine thinking where it's just like things have to be this way, and this is the way. This is our cookie cutter family with our cookie cutter home. I bring in the money. I expect dinner on my table every day. I expect you to clean. I expect you not to work. I expect you to raise the kids this way. This is how there's no teamwork in that mentality. And so that's what I love hearing from other people is they find the most success as working with each other.
Must be nice.
I never. Oh, I'm sorry.
Aww.
It's alright.
It's actually true. It's actually something that that my kids and we talk about all the time. We call it Camacho cooperation. It's how
Camachoation.
Okay, no,
TM.
I don't like that.
Trademark.
No, I don't like that. But yeah, we call it Camacho cooperation. Everybody has a part. Everybody plays their part, and then it comes together as one big awesome whole.
Yeah.
And that's how this family works, and I don't know. They like it. They like it when I call it that.
No, if it works, it works.
Well, that will bring us to the end of the show. Our time is up.
Did we ever actually answer the original question?
We did. I think we talked about how we handle social problems and how we handle mostly academic problems, but we need material for other shows, so we'll get to it.
You guys should be writing this stuff down. Get like a.
Well, that's why we record it.
Oh.
It's for everybody.
Oh.
But no, and I want to thank Kathy for being on the show with us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
she. I have mentioned before, Kathy has helped me plenty with my daughter, especially dealing with things by myself. It's been great to have another person's perspective, especially someone very close to the family who's raised 3 children and done a slew of things. We have not even touched on half the stuff that Kathy went through when she was raising her kids, and we give her many props. So I thought she'd be perfect for the first woman that we would have on this show, and hopefully she will come back again and do another episode.
I'm getting paid, right?
We lost 12 cents off our revenue. So just so you know, I was waiting for that 40-cent mark, and we went down to 34, and I was like, no, what happened?
Somebody called YouTube and was like, is there any way I can make sure that my revenue towards that show gets taken off?
Yeah, I think so. I think that may have been the case.
The advertisers.
Oh, wow.
Well, so I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I am your idiot dad, Miguel.
I'm your idiot dad, Austin.
And I'm not an idiot, Kathy.
No, we just like to call her. So
What?
keep it breezy.
Oh.
Keep it breezy.